Now let's solve the remove duplicates from sorted array problem on LeetCode. Given an integer array nums sorted in non-decreasing order, so in increasing order, in other words, we need to remove the duplicates in place such that each unique element appears only once. The relative order of the elements should be kept the same. Then return the number of unique elements in nums. This is also important. We need to change the array nums such that the first k elements of the nums contain the unique elements in the order they were present in nums. The remaining elements of nums are not important, as well as the size of nums. So if we take a look at example 1, we have nums is 1, 1, 2. Our output, or what we should return, is 2 because there are two unique elements, 1 and 2. And the order of the sorted array looks like this, with the unique values first in ascending order, and then the duplicates could be stored in the end, or we don't really care about what happens with the duplicates at the end, as long as our array is fixed like this, if we take a look at example 2. Okay, so the way we're going to solve this is, first we're going to check if the array nums that they gave us is empty. If nums.length is equal to 0, then we need to return 0. And then what we're going to do is we're first going to create a pointer called I, which starts at 0. So it's pointing at the very first element of our array. Now I is going to keep track of the last unique element in our list. We'll see what that looks like in a second. And we're also going to loop through the array, but we're going to start at position 1, not 0. And what we're going to do is, well, we're going to say if the element at position I is equal to the element at position j, then we're going to loop through our array until we reach the next element. So we're going to have a for loop that compares I with j, and if they're equal, we're going to iterate through our loop and go to the next element. Now, in the case where they're not the same, that would mean the element at I is a unique element, and what we're going to do is we're going to increment I to point at the next element, and then we're going to store the value at position j in I, and we're going to keep going through our loop. One more thing I'd like to mention before we start coding is I, since it keeps track of the last unique element and it begins at 0, that would suggest that the first element in our array is always unique. So actually, let's go ahead and start coding. Like I said, first we're going to check if nums.length is equal to 0, and if that's the case, then return 0. There are no unique elements, there are no elements at all. Then we're going to create our int I, which keeps track of the last unique element, and then we're going to loop through our array. So we're gonna start at the first element, which is j equals 1, pointing at the next element. For example, this is 1. For int j equals to 1, as long as j is less than nums.length j plus plus. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, if nums at I is not equal to nums at j, then increment I, and then nums at, we're going to store in nums at I the value of nums at j. Otherwise, we're going to just keep, if they are the same, we're going to keep iterating until we find a unique element. And then finally, what we need to do is we need to return, I believe we have an extra, no, okay. We need to return I plus 1. Why do we need to return I plus 1? Like I said, I keeps track of the last unique element, and indexes in Java start at 0. So we need to add 1 to whatever position I is to retrieve the number of unique elements. So let's run this code and see if it works. Awesome. So that was the remove duplicates from sorted array. If we were to go through an example, let's go through example 1 very quickly. Is nums.length equal to 0? No, obviously we have 3 elements. I equals to 0, that means I is pointing at 1 when we do nums at I. And then we're going to iterate through this array. So starting at j equals 1, which is pointing to this element, which is also 1. Is nums at I, which is 1, not equal to nums at j, which is also 1? They are equal. So we're going to skip this and then go to j equals 2, which is here. At j equals 2, since they're not equal, that means we have a unique element. We're going to increment I, so I used to point here, now it's pointing here, and j is still pointing at 2. We're going to say nums at I, which is 1, is equal to nums at j, which is 2. So our array is going to look like this. And since we're done with this, we're going to go back up here. J is equal to 3, which is the same as nums.length. So we're going to leave our for loop, and we need to return I plus 1, which is going to be 2. So I hope you found that video helpful, and thanks for watching.